Good evening, Who Dat Nation, and happy Wednesday to our Bayou Blitz family. I hope everybody is doing well out there on this Wednesday, December evening. Hope you're staying warm if you're in a colder part of the country. But certainly glad you're tuning in. And we have for only the third time this year, we have a win. To recap for the New Orleans Saints, and joining you to do that is me. My name is Bob Rose, and his name is Brendan Boylan, and we are your Bayou Blitz hosts for this evening. Brendan, happy Wednesday to you.
Wednesday on a Wednesday. We actually stuck by it. It feels like it's been a little bit of chaotic. Obviously, the holidays do that.
Mm-hmm.
Me being gone 3 or 4 weeks in the month of November does that.
I've been working a retail schedule. I don't think I've joined Alan on Under the Dome for at least 3 weeks. So
I don't say, like, it's just the time of the year, right?
Yeah.
You get the festivities behind you. So if you guys did not know, it's December. Christmas is around the corner. Hopefully, again, everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving holiday. If you're hopefully, like Bob said, you're staying warm. I'm certainly not enjoying the cold, but I have nothing to complain about compared to you, Bob. You got snow. You've had weather in the teens, where I'm sitting here going, man, this stinks. I got to, scrape ice off my car in the morning in 20-something degree weather, which still stinks nonetheless.
Right.
Complain as much as you up in Pittsburgh, and we can't complain about a Saints victory like you.
Well, and that's the weather is a nice segue to weather, the Christmas season. If you're like me and a beach bum at heart, you're already counting down the days. Like me, I'll deal with the cold and the snow. I kind of like it at the holidays, but as soon as January 2nd comes around, I want it to be 85 and 90 degrees. I'd rather be on the beach. Seasonal depression hits me hard. But if you are a beach bum like me, or you're looking to gift your family an additional Christmas gift, then a great idea would be to book your cabin for the annual Get Check or Check Out Foundation's annual Go Black and Gold Celebrity Charity Fan Cruise. The 2026 cruise sets sail on Thursday, March 26th out of Jacksonville, Florida. Bound for a unforgettable weekend in the tropical Bahamas that is scheduled to bring us back on Monday, March 30th. I say us because I am excited. My family and I are going on this cruise for the second year in a row. So you can not only join me and my family, which we would absolutely love, but you also get to join Black and Gold legends Courtney Roby, Michael Lewis, Tyrone Hughes, and Delvin Breaux for a tremendous fun-filled getaway with a purpose. And that purpose is to help raise funds for the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation. The destination this year, the Bahamas, it's brand new. We had a blast in Cozumel, Mexico last year, but Bahamas is something we're really excited for, where we're going to visit and spend time at the new Celebration Key Island Resort along with Nassau. And during this trip, we'll play Beach Olympics with your favorite Saints team captain, compete in a very intense but really fun putt-putt golf tournament with your favorite Saints team captain, as well as enjoying meals, game nights, trivia, Q&A sessions, autograph sessions with those guys and their families. And they're intermixed with you, with us, the entire time. You don't just have limited access to them like you would a lot of NFL or pro sports functions in general. Delvin, Tyrone, Mike, Courtney, they and their families, we're all eating dinner together, hanging out on the deck, hanging out on the beach, the bars, wherever you like to frequent. So that's one of many, many things, that sets this cruise apart from, like I said, really any other, professional sporting event. So you get to party the days and nights away, and we all get to do it together for a cause. And that cause is the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation, which a foundation put in place to help steer you or family members in the right direction if you've received a negative medical diagnosis. No matter what it is, if it just has your heart sinking and your brain spinning, you don't know where to turn next. That's why they're there. go visit their site at tcwidenow.org. They're there to steer you in the right directions for research options, treatment options, therapy options, both individual and group. And this goes for physical medical conditions as well as mental medical conditions. So keep that in mind. This cause needs our help to help us. So check out that site, donate if you have a little bit extra money. But remember, this cruise, as fun as it is, as unforgettable as it is, it is also there to help raise funds. So just by you booking your room and just having a blast on vacation, you're benefiting a great charity, and a charity I've gotten to be very good friends with over the last year plus now. So don't forget to reserve your spot with Summer by calling 985-788-6584. She's with Seven Seas Travel. When you talk to Summer, mention us, mention the Bayou Blitz, and she will take care of you. Or you can contact Shireen, the co-founder of Get Checked or Check Out, at 504-305-7563 for more details on the trip, for more details on the foundation. And feel free to reach out to me too. I love talking about this trip, how much fun we have. I'll tell you anything that you need to know and answer any questions that you may have about it. And Get Checked or Check Out also wants to remind us all that December is HIV and AIDS Awareness Month. They definitely want to remind us to highlight the importance of testing, prevention, and living with this deadly virus. And you can do so by educating yourself. There's certain stigmas that come with HIV or AIDS that, frankly, are not altogether fair or accurate. So ask questions to your healthcare provider, and remember to practice safe sexual contact. Avoid intravenous drugs for various reasons and obvious reasons, but also avoid the stigmas that come with this dangerous virus. And realize it's not necessarily a death sentence for you or a loved one, but there are ways to prevent it, but also ways to educate yourself.
Well said, Bob. And as you said, that cruise end of March, going to the Bahamas, going to be a little bit warmer than wherever you are now. I almost guarantee it, that it's going to be a little bit warmer than wherever you may be watching right this second. So go ahead, book your cabins, reach out to Bob if you have any questions, and get ready to have a good time and be around some awesome people. I know that, we know them as members of the Houdat Nation. We know them as these incredible athletes on the field, but Bob and I have gotten a chance to know these guys as the incredible people they are off the field, and it gives you guys a golden opportunity to do the same exact thing. So go ahead, book those cabins. Bob, let's talk about a win. We had some excitement, some ups, some downs. Tyler Shough looking like almost a prime Cam Newton at times. It was an interesting game, nonetheless. You and I, there's a recording. It's on the internet. We can't escape it. Neither of us thought it was going to be much of a ball game, and the Saints proved us wrong. I'll be honest, there were parts of the game where I was still very frustrated with the offensive play calling.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is just becoming a trend, and it is just what it is this season. You got to hope for better next year with the second year of, installing this type of offense. But there are still times where you're scratching your head and you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But the Saints were able to do something that they lacked the week before. That was score when they got in the red zone. They're able to move the ball somewhat effectively. Tyler Shough, as I just joked about, showed off his wheels, showed off his strength as a runner, showed us something we hadn't really seen up to this point in his career as a starting quarterback. Devin Neal gets in the end zone for the first time. For all of you TikTok people, there was a very funny video of Devin Neal on TikTok returning home following the victory that his significant other posted, and she had balloons and everything waiting for him that were black and gold, and he just made a comment about black and gold and Saints win, and she was like, this is for your first touchdown. Do you not realize what we're celebrating? And in his mind, it was more important that they won. So I like that mentality through and through. But yeah, Bob, interesting game. It gives the Saints an opportunity to really mess with the division, because now the Panthers and the Buccaneers are tied for first place in the NFC South. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, what were some things that stood out to you in this one? And what are some things that you liked or maybe disliked here in the victory?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's funny because as you know, hopefully, as most of you know, I write 2 recap articles following a Saints game, and one of them is basically the good, bad, and ugly, win or lose. And I put Tyler Shough in the good, bad, and ugly in this game. I mean, early in the game, your first 2 drives, he threw the ball pretty well. But then after that, for the rest of the first half, he made some ugly throws, a couple of bad decisions, but then really snapped to life in the second half. The Saints converted 5 of 6. Actually, I think officially ended up being 5 of 7 third down opportunities after converting no third downs in the first half, and 4 of them were passes by Shough. Over the middle in traffic, to Vele, to Jawan, a really nice swing pass to Devin Neal. Shough got one of my game balls in my other recap article just for sheer poise. I know everybody wants to talk about the escapability, and a couple of those runs were downright magical. Roethlisberger or Josh Allen-esque. Like you said, that is an impressive part of his repertoire, that he's adding to his game. Something that I saw in college, which a lot of you that were trashing the draft pick, I keep telling you, even if you don't want to do yourself the favor and go back and watch his whole college tape rather than a couple highlight or low light throws from the combine or here or there, if you don't want to watch the true college tape, then read my article. I've been high on this kid for a while. And I think the Saints have something that they could really build on here. I'm not ready to anoint him as the next great thing by any stretch. He's still got a lot to show. But we have not seen consistently good quarterback play at the position. We both thought Jameis Winston did some nice things. Love him or hate him, Derek Carr did some decent things. Spencer Rattler did some okay things. But none of them were able to string it together consistently. And we're starting to see a consistent baseline out of Tyler Shough. And that's what I wanted to see out of a rookie quarterback, is a consistent floor with a progressive ceiling. And I think that we're seeing both of these right now. So that stood out to me. Devin Neal had a really good game, I thought. A couple of nice runs. I mean, neither Shough or Neal benefited from good offensive line play at all. This line has just played abysmally for the last month plus. But Neal still picked up 70 yards, on the ground, which is the 3rd highest total for any Saints player this year. Alvin Kamara has topped that twice. But Neal's most impressive play of the day to me was the swing pass that I mentioned from Shough earlier. That was late in the 4th quarter. It was in a 3rd down situation. Shough did a nice job escaping pressure, led Neal very nicely on the throw, but Devin still had to break 2 tackles and ended up picking 13, 14 yards up, on the run after catch and picking up that vital first down. Devon Vele looks like he's starting to develop some nice chemistry with Shough, which is something to watch down the stretch too. But I'll tell you, Brendan, the thing that stood out the most to me, this Saints team quietly has put together a very good pass defense. They did all right against the run. Don't let the 179 yards on the ground by the Buccaneers fool you. You take out Baker Mayfield's scrambles, which we know Mayfield was going to be a problem that way. He always is when he plays the Saints. And then take out a 32-yard run, isolated 32-yard run by Bucky Irving. And the Saints held the Buccaneers running backs to just like 3.2 per carry. So I will take that average. But Mayfield started Sunday's game 8 for 8, through the first and into the second quarter. From that point on, the Saints held him to 6 of 22 passing for 38 yards and 1 interception. That's a good pass defense. I mean, you're facing Chris Godwin, Cade Otton, Bucky Irving's a good receiver out of the backfield. Emeka Egbuka. You caution Saints fans, to be aware of or be on the lookout for Tez Johnson or Sterling Shepard. I don't think either of those guys had a catch at all. Quietly, this Saints team is putting together a very good pass defense.
I think just defense in general, right? There was a couple times through the game where they flashed numbers, or the broadcast team was talking about where the Saints ranked last year to this year, and complimented not just Brandon Staley, but the front office of the Saints in bringing in the right pieces for the defense. Now, that's still debatable, right? Debatable. But you did see, and these are things that we talked about in the offseason, that we felt that moving to this style is going to benefit guys like Chase Young.
Mm-hmm.
Chase Young has played really freaking well over the last 6 weeks, right? The numbers may not all be there, right? The sack production is still something that you want to see an uptick in. But when you watch the film and you see how he affects the game and pressures the quarterback, you can be satisfied with how he's played, especially after the contract he was given. To your point, you're seeing growth week to week from a young secondary. And growth, and I think we talked about this maybe 2 weeks ago, growth isn't always linear, right? It's not always just a straight line like you're going up to the top of a roller coaster. It is more the second half of the roller coaster, where you have ups and downs and loop-de-loops and sharp turns one way, and you feel your head going one way and the body going the other way. But that's the growth we've seen out of the secondary, right? We've seen Kool-Aid McKinstry grow. We've seen Quincy Riley grow. Sanker had a great start to the year. You had a little bit of backup brigade at safety this week. And even a guy like Jordan Howden, you've seen improvement from his rookie year to where he is now. And those are very encouraging things, especially because of how frustrating the offense has been at times. Again, they scored points this week.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know off the top of my head, but there's not a lot of games the Saints have scored over 20 points over the last 20. There you go. Thank you, Bob. I knew you had that ready to rock.
It's 3 if you count the Giants game, but there was a defensive touchdown there.
No, that doesn't count.
Yeah, the offense has scored over 20 points or more twice this year.
So there's still offensive problems, and we're going to get to that. But especially when there's offensive problems, when you can see some consistency and some growth out of the defensive side of the ball, it makes you feel good, makes you feel a little bit more confident. Special teams is still a problem.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that as well. But I do want to highlight the defense. I think I say this every week, but I'm going to continue to say it because I guess he's my guy now. I guess we're going to put the crown on and anoint him one of my guys. But like, Brian Bresee had a really good, quiet season. But everything I heard from the guys here in my neck of the woods when he got drafted out of Clemson is he's more of a lunch pail guy. He's not going to really wow you with any of the numbers, but you're going to be able to feel his impact. And that's what they told me when he was drafted. And I'm seeing that now, is he's not a guy that's going to really wow you with the numbers. He's never going to do anything that maybe puts him into being like a Pro Bowl nod year in and year out. But you can see the way that he affects the game.
Mm-hmm.
And he's going to show up on a few plays big time for you. And I felt like this was another game where Bresee had one of those quiet, good games, made a few plays, but wasn't somebody that was being brought up by the commentary team a whole lot. He's definitely a guy that when you watch the All-22, you really appreciate what he does.
Mhm.
And if you're a football junkie and a football nerd, you can really appreciate what he does. So Brian Bresee one of my guys, I guess, at this point, but I wanted to compliment him. Cameron Jordan, I think, has put together a string of performances here where, yes, the age, you can still see the age. There's no question about it. But you're seeing these flashes in a pan of a younger Cameron Jordan. And I think that goes a super long way for this defense as well. Same goes with Demario Davis, who we know how he can shoot an A gap, right? One of the best IQs, one of the best minds. Reaction time
Ever.
slowed down. What did you say again?
Ever.
Ever.
Yeah, he is one of the smartest linebackers I have ever watched, and I love watching linebackers play. Yeah, but Demario Davis continues to just mystify me, with his instincts, anticipation, and overall football IQ.
Absolutely. And I think the beauty of being a high IQ player in any sport is while the body slowed us down a little bit, the mind doesn't. And for a few years there, where some people would tail off, you don't, because your mind is so sharp, it can almost make up for being a half a step slower.
Yeah.
And I've seen that out of Demario all year. You saw it in this game. Like I said, shooting the gaps really well, reading things very well, making some big plays for this team. And again, when your leaders and your veteran leaders are doing that in what some people would now call meaningless football, now that you've been eliminated from postseason play, that goes a long way in kind of setting the tone, creating a culture, right? That's one thing that we've brought up so many times and so many Saints fans have complained about over the last few years is you look at where the culture was, that locker room culture in 17, 18, 19, and 20, and how far we have come from that. Doing the little things like that and seeing that out of your veteran leaders at this point in the season, I think does help lay the foundation for starting to rebuild some of that culture. So I do have to tip my cap to the defense. I have to tip my cap to some of those veteran guys. Like I said, I think it's going to go a long way. And wins like this, I was talking to a guy here. Obviously, when the Saints won on Sunday, my phone started blowing up. But not from Saints fans or not from people who watch this show. It's a lot of my Panthers fans here in the area that I've gotten to know, and they're texting me because that win helped Carolina significantly, and Carolina was on a bye. So everybody here in the Carolinas, that was the Fox game. Everybody had their eyes on that game. So I got a ton of texts from that. And one of the texts that I got was, Brendan, you know as well as I do that this is a culture setting win, because when you look at the schedule the rest of the way for the Saints, and this is coming from someone who's not me, right? This is someone who follows the Panthers. It was like, with the rest of the schedule that the Saints have, a win like this could propel you to maybe win an extra game or two that you probably shouldn't, that then propels you to look at your record at the end of the year and go, hey, maybe we're not as bad as I thought we were, which then propels you into next year making some maybe better front office moves, maybe some more risky front office moves to try to project you to being back into the playoff hunt. And he compared it to Carolina last year, where Carolina missed the playoffs, but won some big games down the stretch and saw some impressive play out of a young quarterback. So he was drawing all these parallels, and I thought that was really interesting, especially as you look at the Saints have Carolina, Tennessee, New York, and Atlanta to close out the year. But before we jump into that, Bob, I want to hear your thoughts kind of teased it a little bit there. The offense has still been frustrating.
Mhm.
They put up some points, but there's still some frustrating things about the offense. Say what you will, you don't have a lot of pieces on the offensive line. And probably the most vital piece, which is starting to become a little frustrating with Eric McCoy. It's not his fault, but anytime you start getting injured as regularly as McCoy has, you start carrying that label of injury prone. And especially when you have a player that is as valuable and vital to the success of a unit as Eric McCoy, it stings a little bit more. You don't have Alvin Kamara in this game. It hurts to say, but I don't know what you get out of Taysom Hill at this point in his career coming off of the injury. You're not seeing as many plays drawn up for Taysom Hill. And when you do, it is these short yardage situations that we became accustomed to. But you're not seeing that breakaway speed, and you're not seeing a guy who is running as aggressively as he has in years past.
Yeah.
But he's in his mid to late 30s, and he's coming off of a pretty major knee surgery. And then, of course, we've talked – receivers have been the talk of the town the last few weeks, with Chris Olave being really the only guy in the room that you felt comfortable with. Vele has had some good performances back-to-back weeks now that he's got some more opportunity. But ultimately, the offense as a whole, Bob, your assessment.
The offense needs a lot more help this coming off season than the defense for sure. I don't think there's anybody that would disagree with me on that. If you think, and I do, but if you think that the Saints have found their quarterback, then the next step has to be to surround him with the weapons that it takes to succeed. I do believe that you have your long-term pair of tackles. Kelvin Banks has not played well in the last couple games, but I think that he's a future perennial Pro Bowler. Talize Fuaga, who missed last week's game against Tampa Bay, returned to practice this week though, so keep an eye on that status. I put Fuaga just a tick under Banks as far as ceiling and and his abilities. So you have your two tackles. I think it's dangerous at this point to count on Eric McCoy to last a whole season. I hope to God Cesar Ruiz is not on this roster next year. And Luke Fortner, who has replaced McCoy, and Dylan Radins, who has been the left guard, basically since they moved on from Trevor Penning. You need to find answers at those spots, because Radins and Fortner, Fortner I think has played fairly well. But call them for what they are. They're backups or short-term starters. So like it or not, Saints fans, this team is going to have to address offensive line in the draft again. I don't think it'll be round one. At least I certainly hope not. But don't be surprised if they go after a receiver. As much as you and I like Chris Olave, Brendan, Chris Olave is not a number one. He's not a featured target. I think if you get a featured target, if you get that guy, Chris Olave is going to become that much more effective. He's going to, as it is now, Chris is going to probably surpass 1,000 receiving yards, which makes 3 times in 4 years that he's hit that plateau. Devon Vele, realistically, Vele's a slot guy, third receiver, big-bodied intermediate kind of guy. The kind of guy that could fill your receiving room, but not a number one guy. If you have your quarterback, you need a Michael Thomas, a Marcus Colston, a Jimmy Graham. We could go throughout the league and point out the top quarterbacks and who their top targets are. There's always one that stands out. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase pop immediately to mind, but we can run down the list. You need to find that guy for Shough. That guy where defenses know we're not likely to stop this receiver. But our defensive game plan this week is to minimize the damage that he can do to us. Once you find that guy, once you protect Shough a little bit better, then the sky could be the limit. Running back, I'm not ready to say that Devin Neal is finally the compliment that we need for Alvin Kamara, but it's starting to slowly trend that direction. Especially with the fact that Neal is an inside runner, and Kellen Moore clearly wants to run between the tackles. But again, if you get a capable offensive line, you don't necessarily need a star back there. You can still be very effective with a declining Alvin Kamara and a rising Devin Neal. This offense still has some work to do. All the more reason to be impressed by what Tyler Shough has done, and is doing, because he's doing so without a lot of help around him.
I think that's the key to all of it, right? I think you've already seen at this point that Shough has been more NFL ready, certainly more impressive in a lot of aspects than Spencer Rattler. I think at this point you can also make the fair comparison, right? There was a lot of people said, well, Rattler didn't have anybody last year and was playing with backups. Well, at this point for Tyler Shough, you're almost in a similar spot outside of Chris Olave. You're playing with a lot of backups and guys who are going to be question marks whether they're going to be on this roster next year.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to address one thing, though. There was a few people online and one member of the media specifically that made a comment that said, imagine if the Saints had made the move to Shough earlier, they may be competing for the NFC South. I think that is a clickbaity type of comment. I don't know how much validity there is to that. Sure, you could play scenarios in your head all you want, but that's all it is. I don't know if this team is any better if Shough starts after the Giants win. Right? And I remember having that conversation with you way back when, was if Rattler gets a win, it's going to be a lot harder to make the move.
Mm-hmm.
And they go and they beat the Giants. Right? I don't know if there would have really been any of a difference. Maybe if he starts that first game against Tampa instead of coming in halfway through it. But other than that, this is still not a very talented football team, to your point.
Right.
And I don't think it makes much of a difference. But I'm with you. They do need a lot of help. I will say, if we're sitting here in April doing this, as we are today, and the commissioner walks up to the podium and says, with the first pick, or the whatever pick the Saints have, let's say they're the fifth pick. With the fifth pick, the New Orleans Saints select blah 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 offensive lineman. I may just jump out of my seat, and you guys might not see me for a while. It's going to be really frustrating if they do that. But they do need to address that. They need to get. You say wide receiver. I think I'm gonna use a different word. They do need a playmaker.
Yeah.
This team is really lacking a. I don't want to go as far as say game breaker, because that is so far in between, right? When I say game breaker, I think guys like Devin Hester was a game breaker in the return game. I think of guys like CJ2K. That 1 year with Tennessee, where if he touched the ball, he could be going. Reggie Bush is a great example. There were times in the career of Alvin Kamara, right? It's really hard to get a guy like that, but a guy who can be a consistent go-to, we need a big play type of guy. I don't know if Chris Olave is that. I don't think on his resume to this point that he showed us that he can be that guy.
Right.
So you need to find a guy like that, whether it is a receiver, whether it's a tight end, whether it's a running back. They got to find somebody that is going to be the 1-2 punch with Tyler Shough. If you're talking about young, up-and-coming guys together, you used the Burrow and Chase comparison, given they went to LSU together and had that magical, season. But you kind of need a running mate there for Tyler Shough. And I think at this point, it's not Chris Olave, and I think Alvin Kamara is not on the same timeline at this point in his career to be considered that running mate. They need to find somebody like that, I think, ultimately.
Yeah, and, I mean, you don't have the guy. You have a couple of good guys. You have a few just another guy, and then a few roster fillers where you could just about plug in anybody and get the same result. You don't have the guy, and until you get the guy, that kind of player. And like you said, it could be running back, it could be tight end. We just kind of assume wide receiver at this point.
Sure.
But you need somebody that when the game is on the line, everybody is expecting the ball to go to, and that guy still makes plays more often than not. And the Saints don't have that. And if they get it, that's going to make Juwan Johnson better. That's going to make Devon Vele better. That's going to make Chris Olave better. And as an end result, it's going to make Tyler Shough much, much better. And should, even with the play calling, I'll say deficiencies rather than idiocy, but there's a fine line. Even with the play calling issues, it makes Kellen Moore look better.
Let's talk special teams real quick and then look ahead towards Carolina. Special teams, we'll keep it really short. They've just been bad. It's only been 2 games. I don't want to get too high or too low on a guy like Charlie Smith. But even Charlie Smith, has had his moments where it's been not good. Kai Kroger, I don't know. I really don't know. And we've talked about the punter position since Thomas Morstead. It's just like, how have we progressively gotten worse? Right? Gillikin was supposed to be this big leg, and that didn't work out. And he lost his job.
And he just couldn't, he had no accuracy.
Fair. He still got a job in the league. But we've just progressively gotten worse to where I think Kroger's second to last in the league.
Yeah.
In yards per punt attempt or net yard or whatever. Air yards, whatever statistical category. They're all a little different and all the same, and it is what it is. He has not been good. Like, at all. You don't have a guy who's able to really flip the field for you. Matter of fact, it rained a lot. It was wet. That changes a lot of things. But even late in the game where you need Kroger just to pin him inside, you're not talking like coffin corner it. Like, just make sure Tampa's got to go as far as they possibly have to go. It's if you would have put that thing within like the 10, I would have been happy. But it's like 5 yards in the end zone.
Yeah, and that's what I wrote. I'm like, he didn't even give his coverage units a chance.
And that's what's frustrating. Right? If the ball had bounced because it was wet and it slid or something in the end zone, so be it. Can't help the weather. But you put that thing 5 yards deep in the end zone, I'm not a punter. I probably couldn't do any better. But I would like to think if I know I have about a 10-yard cushion here, that I would even play it conservative. I would have been fine if the ball was like fair caught at the 12. It wouldn't have been my favorite. But that's a much better result than putting it through the end zone.
Yeah.
Or like you said, just giving your team a chance is much better. And that was the frustrating thing. Special teams hasn't been good.
No, the coverage units have been disappointing. Although, having said that, I think Isaiah Stallbert, I continue to use the term heat-seeking missile out there, and he's so fun to watch. But yeah, the the coverage units have been disappointing. Obviously, watching Rashid Shaheed return a kickoff for a touchdown against for the Seattle Seahawks this past Sunday, it hurt. Especially if you're a Shaheed fan like myself. But I'll say this: Mason Tipton has had nice returns in each of the last couple of weeks. Early in the game, the first to open the game against Tampa Bay to set the Saints up in great field position for that opening touchdown drive, and then after that, Mason has been a good enough kickoff returner where the opposing teams will only kick to him once. He'll burn them, and then they'll go Dante Pettis kick at Dante Pettis the rest of the way, and Pettis is average at best. But this is a young Saints team, so we do expect some roster changeover this coming off season, obviously, because the rebuilding process continues. I believe, and this is a hunch, I've heard nothing. I believe that one of the first moves that we see out of this Saints team this offseason is moving on from the special teams coaching staff. I think that's the first move Kellen Moore makes, before they even make the decision on, what free agents or what in-house free agents are we going to re-sign. I think the first move they make is to move on from the special teams coaches.
Well, you almost have to. That's how poor it's been.
Yeah.
Top to bottom. I wouldn't be surprised too. Like I'm very happy that Charlie Smith's getting his chance here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see a whole turnover, to your point.
No, I mean, Smith has shown some good things. To your point, you mentioned the missed field goal. He also had a couple poor kickoffs. That we should be watching. Smith has an opportunity to win the job over the last 4 games. But I'm with you. I expect a bona fide kicking competition this offseason, and certainly bringing in probably a few punters to take a look at.
Absolutely. Let's talk about not just the Panthers game. I kind of want to spin this a different way. I want to spin this as this is the opportunity to throw a wrench into the last few weeks of the NFC South as a whole, right? Falcons eliminated, Saints eliminated. But it's really going to come down to Carolina, Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
And they play each other twice down the stretch. So, I mean, it's going to be a really interesting finish. But the Saints just beat Tampa to throw the Panthers a lifeline to where the Panthers are now tied. Well, the easiest route to win the NFC South for Carolina, beat New Orleans this week, beat Tampa next week. That essentially gives you the NFC South, right? Or it puts you in prime position.
Yeah.
You are going into turn 4 with the lead of the NFC South at that point, right? The Saints could really mess it up is if the Saints beat the Panthers this week, right? That's the easiest way for the Saints to really mess this thing up for Carolina. And I think if you're a fan of this team going down the stretch and you're really looking for something to kind of pull for outside of just the team, is you could pull for this team just breaking the hearts of fan bases of teams that you don't have good relationships with, right? You already did it to Tampa, right? You threw a wrench in it. You made this thing a whole lot more interesting. You beat Tampa in Tampa. And now they're probably asking themselves a couple questions. I saw that they elevated or activated Mike Evans today and another receiver. I don't remember if it was Godwin or not.
Godwin played last week.
I'm sorry. It was Godwin.
The other one they've been missing is Jalen McMillan.
So I think McMillan got activated as well. So, now you got them kind of scrambling. They're on a short week after a tough loss and have to play on Thursday night. So if they lose, them being the Buccaneers, and then you beat the Panthers, you're just making it even more fun down the last 3 games. Or if it's a mix, however you want to spin it. So that's going to be fun. But kind of what I said earlier, Bob, these last few games for New Orleans, I think, and I think that you think that I think that you think, if you kept up with that, they're all winnable games.
Yeah.
You're not playing any competition where you're just like, whoa, expect a blowout or expect this or expect that. You're playing Carolina. See if I can get this order right off the top of my head. I'm not cheating, I promise. I'm not looking at these screens outside of Bob. Carolina. Tennessee, New York, Atlanta. Did I get that right? Or did I flip?
No.
I flipped the Jets and the Titans.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. But flip that. But those are your last 4 opponents. Guys, 3 of those teams are drafting in the top 5. If the season
absolutely awful football teams.
Yeah, terrible. I'm not saying anything. I'm not going to go out there and allow you guys to clip this if you really want to. But what if the Saints go on a 5-0 streak to win, to finish the season? Because I think it's doable. I'm not saying it's likely. I'm probably not even going to give that a 50%. I'm not saying it's a 50-50 shot. It's probably a 35% chance that happens. But what if the Saints just run the board, to close the year? I'm not saying it's going to happen, but like I said earlier, that win against Tampa is a culture win. And if you go and you beat Carolina, that's a culture win. And let's say they lose to in my opinion, the 2 worst teams left in Tennessee and the Jets, which would be terrible. But say they do that and then they beat Atlanta, another division opponent. If you can win 2 of these last 4, those are culture-setting victories. And especially if you can do it, one of them in a convincing fashion. And that's where I'm kind of hanging my hat and hoping. But it starts with this week. How does a team respond after winning a tight game against a divisional opponent, against a team that has won the division the last few years? How do you respond to that? Do you keep your foot on the gas or do you ease up a little bit? And that's kind of what I'm looking for against Carolina.
Well, and that's the point. That's the most important point right there. The Jets, the Titans, the Falcons, they are 3 of the 5 worst teams in football right now.
Absolutely.
You throw the Giants and the Browns in there. And frankly, it's not even close to the rest of, to anybody else after those 5. But remember this. We've been down this road. We've had this conversation last month after the Saints resoundingly thumped the Panthers in Carolina. They came back. I think they had a bye first, but they came back and played Atlanta and got their ears beat in. So I see what you're saying and I agree with everything that you're saying. But right now, I'll just take a 2-game winning streak for the first time since early last November. And then after that, I'll settle for a 3-game winning streak for the first time since early 2023. That's baby steps. But your point is made. I mean, when you're a young team, when you're a rebuilding team, when you're a team learning how to win, baby steps are what's important. Capitalizing on momentum that you captured, which you have it now by beating Tampa Bay. Beating a team that you've already beaten. So in other words, the formula. And then beating teams that on paper you are far more talented. They are far more talented than the Jets and Titans for sure. And I believe that they're more talented than the Falcons. But it starts to echo Cam's phrase. Yeah, you got to take it 1 week at a time. You have to take it one game at a time. And a young team that beat a potential playoff team in Tampa Bay on the road, and really out physical them to do it. Let's not cut corners here. That win was no fluke. You physically beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Don't let those young guys in the locker room get full of themselves now and overlook Carolina just because, well, we already beat them and now we're going to, and now we're playing them at our place. Bryce Young ain't shit. We're going to be able to stop the running game because we did it before. No, you got to go out and do it now. And that's the next baby step this team needs to take. Get your back-to-back win for the first time this year. Play spoiler in the division, and establish a little bit more momentum. Because if you can go on a little bit of a run to end the year, I know if they go, finish 6-11, 7-10, there are going to be people out there that are going to be pissed because they ruined their draft position. The kind of people that never played a competitive sport in their life are the ones saying this or didn't play it well. But I'll tell you, you finished this year at 6-11, 7-10. I'm feeling pretty damn good going into the offseason. Because what have we said? And Alan Ulrich would echo this, both on his show and when he'd get together with us. From the start, we have always said we want to see this team progress. We want to see this team be a better Saints squad in December than they were in September. So again, if you look at if they pull off a streak to end this year and wind up with 6 or 7 wins, that means that's exactly what we've gotten. Which also means we've gotten good quarterback play from Tyler Shough. We've talked about the development of the defense and the defensive coaching staff. Under Brandon Staley. We're starting to see some things out of Devon Vele, out of Devin Neal. We've talked about the young secondary. Danny Stutzman made some really nice plays on Sunday. So you're starting to see the young players develop, starting to see the young players take a foothold and really establish a new core to this team that for so many years was Drew Brees, Cam Jordan, Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara. Most of those guys are gone now, or on their way out the door and have not been replaced. So that's what you need to do. Well, if you establish a new young core, that's exactly what you're starting to do.
Bob, let's close out the show today. I'm with you. I think that if this team were to finish 7-10, 6-11, I wouldn't be mad. I would say, okay, there are less problems today than there were at the beginning of the season, which means there's less problems going into the offseason and maybe some more confidence around certain positions. You brought up the quarterback play would have to be good. Yes, I think the secondary would continue to have to grow as a young group. Those type of things would be vital to this team going on any type of run here. But like I said, they're culture wins. They're culture setters. And that's just as important to me, is getting this team back to a place of confidence and joy, right? God, when this team was fun, you could tell every single player in that locker room was playing with a special type of joy.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's been gone the last few years. So I'd be looking out for that as well. Bob, you're going to keep all the people up to date. You're going to be giving them opinions. You're giving them good, bad, and ugly, even if it's all the same player. You're also going to, I don't want to have you jump the gun here, but before you know it, Bob's going to be coming at you with some draft profiles. He's going to be coming at you with all of that stuff. But the Saints draft position could change a lot between now and the end of the regular season. So, Bob, so people can go ahead and get those articles read before Christmas, after Christmas, and in the off season, where can everybody follow you on the World Wide Web?
Make sure you follow all of my written work, as well as those, with John Sigler and a couple other very talented writers over at the Saints Wire. That's a USA Today publication, also available on every social media platform. I will continue to publish my works as often as I can through the Saints Wire, and I also always publish our written works on my personal social media pages. Bob Rose on Facebook, at Bobby R 2613. So make sure you give me a follow over there if you haven't already. And remember, Thursday, March 26th through Monday, March 30th. Those are the dates for the Get Checked or Check Out Foundation's annual cruise with Delvin Bro, Tyrone Hughes, Michael Lewis, Courtney Roby, their families, myself, my family. I want to see you guys on there. Check out tcynow.org for all that foundation's information and book that cabin today.
For myself, you can follow me virtually everywhere here at BT Boylan. Bob, I noticed when we were getting ready today, episode 191 together. If my math serves me well, which I'm not very good at math, that would put us at around the time of the Super Bowl for episode 200, which is kind of crazy. It seems like we got here very fast.
Nice.
So excited to hit another milestone with you here soon. Hopefully the Saints hit a couple milestones the rest of the season and give us a couple early Christmas gifts, especially starting this week at home in Carolina. Hopefully a win against Tampa kind of rejuvenized the Houdat Nation. Hopefully, you guys give them hell this week inside of the Superdome. For Bob Rose, I'm Brendan Boylan. Thanks so much for tuning in for another edition of the Bayou Blitz podcast. Until our hopefully another victory recap this Sunday. Hope you guys find some peace, spread love, practice positivity. We'll see you next time on Bayou Blitz. See you then.